Welcome to Jon S, sports channel where we do everything Championship, League One and running. Today it's the Championship and it's the predictions for Week 10. And we're going to go straight in. We're going to go straight in at Leeds United versus Sheffield United. And this is a humdinger, isn't it? We've got 5th versus 2nd. And what are you all saying? 2-2, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 2-1, 1-1. Now, I at first was thinking 2-1 to Leeds. And the reason being, Sheffield United 2-0 win, 2-0, 1-0, 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 1-1, 1-0, sorry. 5 wins and 1 draw out of 6. Not let 1 goal in. And on the opposite side, you have Leeds, Meslier doing that howler against Sunderland. How the hell did that go in? But it would have been 2-1 to Leeds, but it wasn't. It was 2-2, 1-1, 3-0, 2-0, a 1-0 defeat at Burnley, 2-0 win at Hull. I'm just seeing more goals, or the ability to score more goals with Leeds, and I just see them being able to outwit Sheffield United, but Sheffield United have a damn good defence, and they haven't let one in recently. So I just see that although I believe that Leeds would win this 2-1, I think that defence is going to just be a little bit more of an influence on the game than I think. And I'm going to go with probably about 90% of you. So I'm going to go Leeds 1, Sheffield United 1. So we move on from our listen-along game tonight to our second game of Cardiff versus Plymouth. Now, Plymouth have been doing really well. Let's look at their last 6 games. They've won against Sunderland 3-2. They've won against Luton 3-1. And they've won against Blackburn 2-1. Now, these sides are all very good at this at the moment, at the point where they played them, and even now, they've been playing really well. So, all of a sudden, they've started to put a team together that can win quite convincingly. And I think they were convincing wins. They were certainly, those 3 were wins where you didn't see them. I didn't see them losing any of those 3 games, and indeed the 3 defeats: Stoke City 1-0, West Brom 1-0. I remember thinking the only side that was going to break that was going to be Plymouth in the second half, and then West Brom ended up winning it 1-0. So they have been playing really well, and I've been quite impressed with them. Yes, they're at home. Yeah, so you've got a home win against Blackburn, a home win against Luton, a home win against Sunderland. Let's face it, guys, Plymouth are really good at home. They were last year. They're starting to be really good at home this year, and I can't see them having much problem. They are 14th, Cardiff are 24th. And if you look at the game against Bristol City, you have to be very careful. I've watched it a few times, and actually Cardiff were very unlucky not to come away from Bristol City without a 2 or 3-1 win. They just couldn't get the darn ball on target. They missed so many open nets. It was unbelievable. They must have missed about 2 or 3 open nets. Certainly in the second half, they missed 2, right near the end. And you're thinking, what do they need to win, guys? Like in the last 6, they've lost, won against Millwall, drawn against Bristol City. They're not playing badly. They're just letting themselves down with the defence. And every time that I saw Bristol City attack, they seem to have 3 defenders running back to try and cover. They were far too high up, and there were only 3 of them. I don't know what format. Will it tell me what format they were playing? I don't think it will. But no, it won't. But there were only far too many times when there were only 3 Cardiff defenders running back to try and cover the Bristol City attack. And that worries me. And I look at this and I see what you're all saying. You're all saying 24th versus 14th. Plymouth are doing really well. Cardiff, it's just not running for them. But they are at home. Will they get a manager? I believe they've eyed which manager they're going to get. I don't know. I've not heard that they've signed him up yet. But what are you all saying? 1-1, 1-0, 0-0, 0-2, 1-2, 1-2. I'm going to go with all of you because I think Plymouth have it here. Plymouth are, although they're better at home, I think it's either going to be a draw or Plymouth win. A lot of you are saying a draw. A lot of you are saying 2-1. I'm going to go with most of you. Cardiff 1, Plymouth 2. So we go into our next game, Luton versus Watford, and this is a derby. So we can't really take the stats, can we? Because we all know derbies are completely off the cuff, aren't they? You don't know what's going to happen in a derby. Nobody can tell. It can go 6-0 one way, 6-0 the other, and that particular team's not even scored for the last 6 months. It really can be quite a game changer being a derby. I want to look at the last game, and Sheffield against Sheffield United, Luton actually played quite well. They just didn't have that finishing touch for me, and it showed with a 2-0 defeat. But Sheffield United didn't really play that well. And then I look at Borough and I think, Watford versus Borough. Watford won it and they actually did quite well. But I thought Borough did well. They just didn't have the run of the ball. And the ball just seemed to be constantly doing things that they're like, I didn't want it to do that. We call it the run of the green, don't we? They just didn't have the run of the green on the day. But I thought they did quite well. So you think Watford actually coped with that extremely well. So I thought both teams did well. And if you look back, Luton Town, a 2-0 defeat against Sheffield United, probably the right way, but I think that they could have or should have been at least on the score sheet there. 2-2 against Oxford, perhaps at home they should be doing better than that. 3-1 defeat away at Plymouth, but Plymouth are really good at home. Sheffield Wednesday, 2-1 win at home. Millwall 1-0 win away. Now Millwall are excellent at home this season, so that was a good win. So they're all, and Watford are similar. A Preston defeat away 3-0. I would expect them to win that one, but Sunderland but they lost it, and then the week before to win at home 2-1 to Sunderland, who are flying. It's which team's going to turn up, and I think that's what we've got here. We've got a case of Luton, Watford, and which one's going to actually turn up on the day, and it shows in what you guys are saying. So Luton, Watford, we've got 1-2, 2-2, 2-1, 0-1, 1-1, 2-1. Which way do you go? I can't call this because I don't know which team's going to turn up. It could be 2-1 in either direction, but I'm going to have to go on the fence, I'm afraid, and go Luton Town 1, Watford 1. I am agreeing with a fair few of you, 1-1s and 2-2s mainly, but we'll go 1-1 for Luton Watford. Then we go Oxford versus West Brom. Now, Oxford haven't won a game away from home yet, but on the other hand, they've not lost at home yet. So, not won away from home, not lost at home. Wow, not won away from home, not lost at home. We're get me tongue-tied here, aren't we? Against a team that were top of the league and have just lost their way, losing against Sheffield Wednesday 3-2 away, losing against Borough at home 1-0, and then drawing 0-0 in a very dull match, I thought, at home to Millwall. And they just seem to have lost it. And will they get it back now? Well, they could have done, but unfortunately, Oxford are really good at home. They're really good at grinding out wins and draws. Certainly, the last 3 games have been draws: 0-0, 2-2, 1-1. Coming back after being 1-0 down for so long at away at Portsmouth, and getting that equaliser. They never that never say die attitude, I think, from Oxford is what I'm getting at. And I think that Oxford will have just got the edge at home with all that knowledge of how good they are at home, and with that never say die attitude. And I think the fans are brilliant. I think the fans are absolutely brilliant. The noise they provide, and looking at the numbers of fans, the different championship teams get at home, they're actually, the numbers are quite decent, but they've, compared to some of the bigger clubs, they're not very great, but they produce so much sound. Absolutely good on you, really is. I think I just can't think that Albion are going to get it back today. I think that this Saturday Albion will just struggle against a team that are playing at home. They're very good at home. They can score, usually ones and twos. They have scored 3-1 against Preston, but it's usually ones and twos. Yeah, okay, don't always score, but 0-0 Burnley. But they can score against a team that can also score, but have just lost their mojo. I'm going to go with Oxford 2, West Bromwich Albion 1. I think they'll score, because it was 0-0 last time, and I just got in a thought that, they will score. That 3-2 defeat at Wednesday, I think that it's time for them to score one. They could make it 2-2, but I think I'm going to come on the side of 2-1 to Oxford United. So we go on to one of the hated matches for Coventry fans, isn't it? Preston versus Coventry, and Coventry don't win at Deepdale. That's the news from the Coventry fans. What are you all saying? 2-1, 1-0, 1-0, 2-3, 1-0, 0-2. Right, okay. We've got 19th versus 20th. They both desperately need a win. But if you look at the Preston, the last few games of Preston, and we take out the cup draw to Fulham, 1-1, you think, well, Borough draw 1-1. Okay, Borough weren't playing very well back then. They should have been able to get something, or they could have got something from that. Blackburn were playing well when they played them, 0-0. That's actually a good result, because they were really well. They were playing really well, Blackburn, at that point. 3-1 defeat to Millwall away, but Millwall are really good at home, and I'll be mentioning that later. Millwall are actually cracking at home. Watford win 3-0 at home, okay, but they can either turn up or not, like we said in the previous game. And Burnley 0-0. Well, that has to be a really good draw, doesn't it? So Preston have been up and down a little bit as well, and I'm just worried whether Preston will turn up. They should do, and they tend to do quite well at home. And I just think that they're going to have the edge at home against a Coventry side that don't do very well at Deepdale, and that's got to be ingrained it's certainly ingrained in the fans' minds. It shouldn't be ingrained in the players' minds, because some of them won't even realise that that's true. but it will filter down to them from the fans as they get up to game day. And also Coventry, they seemed to play really well against Wednesday, and then they just fizzled out. And I didn't really see I've not seen a great team there. The surprise is the 3-0 win at home to Blackburn, because Blackburn have been playing really well, although they're getting the results while playing quite good. Probably the better way of putting it. But you've got a draw, a defeat at Swansea, defeat at Leeds, win at against Blackburn, defeat against Sheffield Wednesday. I can't see this being a win for Coventry. At best for Coventry, I think it would be a draw. At best for Coventry, a draw. But I think that Preston have just started to turn things round. In the last 6, they've only lost that one against, well, if you count the Carabao Cup in it, they've only got the defeat at Millwall 3-1. So I think we're seeing a side in Preston that have just started to turn the tables a little bit, whereas in Coventry we're still got to start playing. I think they're playing well, but they're not quite clicking. There are certain aspects that, like I said in the review last time, that I'm just not happy about with Coventry. I'm going to have to go with a Preston win. However, it's what are you all saying? 2-1, 1-0, 1-0, 2-3, 1-0, 0-2. There are some that thinking Coventry will score 1 or 2. They're scoring ones quite regularly. They do seem to score. I'm gonna go with one of those. Let's throw in an extra goal. Let's make it Preston 3, Coventry 1. So we move on to Blackburn versus Swansea, and this is a difficult game because Blackburn have just lost it of late, losing against Coventry. Look where Coventry are in the league. Losing against Plymouth, but Plymouth ran that game, and it was away at Plymouth, and Plymouth are really good at home. They won again at home against QPR, but QPR aren't doing very well. Certainly not as well as they finished last year. Preston 0-0, but I can't remember whether Preston turned up on that day, because they sometimes do, sometimes don't. Bristol City the same. They won 3-0, but Bristol City have started that same old thing where they sometimes turn up to a game, sometimes they don't, and you can tell which teams turned up after about 15 minutes watching the game. It used to frustrate the hell out of the Bristol City fans when Rotherham were in the Championship. We used to listen to the Bristol City fans on the Blue Monday podcast moaning about, we win against the most amazing teams, and then we'll lose against the worst team in the division. We just seem to turn up one day and not the next. So you can't really tell, because Blackburn have played a few of those in the last 6 games, and you're thinking, you can't really look at the stats and how, you've got to look at how they're playing. They're not playing great. They're playing okay. They're certainly not playing bad enough to be in the bottom half, but they're not playing great football. They're in the top 6. It's Blackburn's 6th against Swansea 11th. And you would automatically think, well, they're in 6th, they must be playing really well. And they just seem to be getting the run of the green. Against Plymouth, though, they were absolutely nailed out of they were just... The game plan of Plymouth was to take Blackburn and stop them from playing football, and it worked. Coventry, they did the same. Coventry managed to just take them out of the game. And those two teams both seem to have had the same game plan: stop Blackburn playing. So it is possible to stop Blackburn from playing, but they're at home, and I think that this time they're playing a team in Swansea that, yeah, they could try and do that, but there's very few goals in their last games. 0-0, lost to Sheffield United 1-0, 1-1 against Bristol City. They won 2-1 away at Coventry. 1-0 win at home to Norwich. That was a really good game, that. And then they only lost 1-0 away at West Brom. But there's only like 0, 1 and 2 goals in it. Once with a 2-goal against Coventry. And I can't see them scoring. They might score one, but I'm going to have to go with... what were you saying? 1-1, 2-2, 2-1, 2-1, 1-0, 3-0. 2-0. So most of you are going with Blackburn. I'm going to go with you lot, and I'm going to go Blackburn 1, Swansea 0. But don't be surprised if Swansea don't just nick that one goal that they're quite capable of doing. Because at the beginning of the season they were scoring. They looked like they were going to be scoring quite well, and it just didn't come off. So I look forward to this Swansea side starting to score more as we get through the season. I think they will. Will they do it today, on Saturday? Don't think so. I'm going to go with 1-0 to Blackburn, and we move on to our next match, which the next game is Borough versus Bristol City. Now, Borough's game at Watford, they lost 2-1. They really did have so many chances, but just cracked the ball from nowhere, and it just seemed to be just let's shoot whether it's on target or not, and that's one of my gripes against some of these teams. They just seem to think that wellying it as hard as you can somewhere in the direction of goal will create a marvellous wonder goal. Well, it will, but 9 times out of 10 it goes into the sky and hits a local seagull. And that's what was happening. And the other half, third of the time, the goalkeeper from Watford was brilliant and was doing some wonder saves. So it just wasn't going to come off on the day. But Borough was certainly the better side, I thought, there. And they've been showing that they can play really good football. Win against Stoke, win against West Brom, and you're thinking, this team can actually do really well. They only lost 1-0 away at Sunderland, and the Stadium of Light is really difficult to play in. The crowd is huge and really noisy. So Borough have impressed me of late, a lot more impressed now than I was for the first couple of games, with their style and abilities of play. Bristol City, on the other hand, the away team, they seem to be, and I've said it in one of the previous games, they seem to be turning up or not. I mean, are they going to turn up? Are they not going to turn up? Win at home to Oxford 2-1, yeah, good. Away 1-1 Swansea. Really, I mean, it's a local club. Perhaps it was a bit hit and miss as to who was going to win. It's sort of like a derby, but not a derby like Rotherham and Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, talking about Wednesday, 0-0 away at home to Wednesday. Okay, I mean, Wednesday haven't been playing that good, and a Bristol City side should be able to put them to bed at home. Cardiff City in 24th and last time out at home 1-1, and you think, they didn't even turn up at home, for God's sake. And I am worried about that Bristol City side. So I have to agree with most of you. A good Borough side who just haven't had the run of the green in some of the games against a poor Bristol City side when they don't turn up. A good Bristol City side when they do turn up, they can play really good football. But I can't see them doing it here. Will Bristol City score? I'm going to go with most of you. And what are you saying? 1-0 to Borough, 1-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. Most of you are saying Borough 1, Bristol City 0. And that's what I'm going to go with. Borough 1, Bristol City 0. And I think even if Bristol City score, I think you'll probably see it still be a 2-1 win to Borough. So, yeah, perhaps 2-1 to Borough, but I think we're going to go 1-0. And we'll move on to our next game, which is Millwall Derby. So what do we think of Millwall Derby? Well, Millwall are really good at home. At last, they've got that that dread of going to the Den, back again. I mean, last season I don't think that was quite the case, and I can't remember the season before. I think the season before was a little bit iffy as well. And it used to be a case of, oh God, we're going to the Den. It's going to be really difficult. And the fans made it so. The fans were brilliant, and they are brilliant. They're really noisy. I love the Millwall fans. And although a lot of people say, a lot of people dislike Millwall fans, don't they? They gained a bad reputation in the sort of 80s when I first started watching football. They're playing a Derby team who have just lost it. They did have it. They were playing really good, and I think Warney got them playing a championship style football, which it could never do at Rotherham because we just didn't have the cash to inject, whereas they've had the cash to bring in really good players. So they got good players. They got good championship players. They can play championship football. But that defeat, I think it all started with a defeat. For me, it started with the Derby losing 1-0 away at Sheffield United, and they they could have done something there, but they just didn't have the teeth. And then at home, they've been playing really good at home. 2-3, they lost at home to Norwich, but there again, I don't think there were certain aspects of that Norwich scoreline I wasn't happy with. Move on. Sunderland 2-0 away defeat, but it's Sunderland. And even that QPR win at home 2-0 last time out, I don't think Derby really enamoured me. They won it, and that's all I can say. It was a win. But QPR haven't started very well, and they certainly haven't started as well as what they finished last season. So I look at this and I see the Den, and I think at last we've got that the Den is a difficult place to play, and I believe it is, and I believe it will be for a travelling team like Derby. What the score is going to be, I can see where you're all coming from. 2-1, 2-1, 1-1, 2-0, 1-1, 1-1. A lot of you thinking that Derby can score, so but they can also just give up, which is sort of like a Warney trait. And I think that if Millwall get their heads in front first, I can see the Derby heads dropping. I'm going to go with right down the middle of where you are. Right down the middle. There are some people sort of like a little bit higher than that. I think I'm going to go Millwall 2, Derby 0. And we move on to the next game. So the next game is QPR versus Portsmouth, and Portsmouth are my local team. Now, if ever there was a 0-0 game, this has to be it, doesn't it? Let's read off the last 6 QPR results. 1-1 Sheffield Wednesday, 2, forget that one. Oh, well, no, we won't. 2-1 defeat Carabao Cup Palace. 1-1 draw at home to Millwall. 2-0 defeat away at Blackburn. 3-1 defeat at home to Hull. 2-0 defeat away at Derby. Which we've just mentioned. And I just think that this QPR team have done so well in the past. The end of last year was great, but we seem to have stuttered. We've got a team, QPR in 22nd versus Portsmouth in 23rd. They both have to win this. They really do. I know we're not far into the season, only game week 10, but we get into a quarter of the way through now, guys. And we're going to start seeing teams at the bottom who will, whether we like it or not, stay in that bottom six. Will QPR stay there? Well, they stayed in quite long last season and then just shot up the table. But they just, and they didn't make many changes during the summer, and I can't see why they can't do it again. Will they do it here? It doesn't look like it. We look at Portsmouth, and we see a 3-1 defeat at home to Sunderland, a 3-0 defeat at home to West Brom, a 2-1 defeat away at Burnley. Hang on, we're talking all the ex-Premier League sides here. And Sunderland are like top of the league. West Brom, I think, were near the top of the league, or could have been at that point. Burnley, ex-Premier League. Oh, 0-0 against Sheffield United. Oh, God, another Premier League. Who they've played is absolutely ridiculous. But then they get against the teams they should be getting points against. Away to Stoke, 6-1 defeat. Ouch. They were just ran ragged. Was it all in the head? Possibly, but then we go at home to Oxford, nearly win it to the last few minutes, and it's a draw 1-1. Now, I just can't see. A 0-0 would be a really good score for this game. There's only one person said 0-0. 3-1, 2-1, 1-2, 0-2, 1-1 and 0-0 is what I've got from people. And I look at this and I think, where the hell are you going to put this? I think it's going to... I don't think 3 goals are in it. I don't think... And certainly 3-1. No, I don't think that there's 4 goals in it, certainly. I just... It's difficult for this one, and I'm thinking on my feet because I was thinking of playing my joker. I'm going to play my joker, and I'm going to go sort of almost with one or two of you but I don't think anybody's actually said this score, and I'm going to go with QPR 0, Portsmouth 1, first win away from home. Really good. In fact, first win of the season. So I'm going to go with a Portsmouth win, and we'll see where that takes. Where would that take them? It could take. Well, yeah, I don't think it will, but it may take them out of the bottom 3. So let's go on to Sheffield Wednesday versus Burnley. Now, Sheffield Wednesday versus Burnley. It's 15th versus 3rd. But Sheffield Wednesday, I think, have been playing really well. The 2-1 defeat away at Luton. Luton didn't play well, I don't think, but they won it 2-1. And on that game, I think Wednesday actually played quite badly. Blackpool win before that, 1-0 away. Yeah. In the Carabao Cup, you would expect them to win that, wouldn't you? They probably weren't even bothered. They want to concentrate on the league, I should think. Championship before that, QPR 1-1 at home. Now, those 3 games I've penciled out because I think that's the point in time where they were playing okay. But I think they've suddenly started to play quite well. 3-2 win at home to West Brom, when West Brom are actually doing really, really well. And they impressed me because West Brom were playing really well. They lost the game, but Wednesday just didn't say die, and they just kept battering away at them, and came away with a 3-2 win. Bristol City away 0-0, and you have to think, which team turned up? I can't remember. Bristol City, I turn up or don't. But Wednesday, yeah, they played well against Bristol City. They just couldn't get a bloody goal. And Coventry, I think they ran that bet more than what was said. I think they deserved that win away at Coventry, and they played quite well. And I can see them slowly starting to play better. And yeah, they are 15th, but they're 15th because they're starting to improve. Whereas they're playing a Burnley side who don't seem to be stopping playing really well. The only points 1-1 against Blackburn, 1-0 win against Leeds, 2-1 win against Portsmouth, 0-0 against Oxford. They couldn't break those down. 1-0 at home to Plymouth win. Plymouth away don't play that well, and they perhaps should put a couple more in there. But I think shots on target were an issue there, weren't they? Preston 0-0 at home. They have to be disappointed with that. There's a couple of little niggly. They should have done better there. Done better there. They could have put more on target. But I think against a Sheffield Wednesday side that's actually starting to do well, there's one person that has got my prediction in here. And we go to your predictions, right? Owls versus Burnley, 0-1, 1-1, 1-0, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Okay, most of you are going 2-1 to Burnley, just to nick it on the fact that they're doing really well. But I think the Owls have started to just make Hillsborough a little bit more of a difficult place to play. And I think it's going to start getting even more difficult as the season goes on, because they're starting to play better. I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday 1, Burnley 1. So Stoke versus Norwich. This is difficult because Stoke, Norwich have been getting the wins, whether it be by pulling the ball back from outside the line, or whether it be for diving on the floor and getting penalties. But they've been getting the wins, and that's what it's all about. Win, lose, win, draw against Leeds, win against Hull 4-0 at home. You have to think that they're doing really well. Their abilities to score 1 goal, no goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 1 goal, 4 goals. They're putting them in for fun, for God's sake. Against the Stoke City side, 6-1 win at home to Portsmouth the other week. But then 0-0 against Stoke City the week after. They can score. We know they can score. They scored goals or threatened to score goals in the beginning of the season. And as somebody else said, who I watched on their predictions review, are Stoke going to turn up? Because that team can do well. I've seen a few fluffs from our old Victor Johansson, our old goalie. Sometimes he's been playing some absolute howlers at the back and given the roll. I've seen him roll the ball out twice in one of the games straight to an attacker, and you're thinking, oh shit, what's he done? So the howlers are there, and I just can't see Norwich not winning it. Even if Stoke turn up, that they just have a soft underbelly, I think, and they need to sort it out, and they need to sort it out now. What are you all saying? 0-3, 2-3, 1-3, 1-3, 0-1, 0-2. These are main. They're all for Norwich, but it's a case of how many Stoke are going to score, and if Stoke will turn up and score. I think you're quite right. I think if they score, they'll score 2, and it'll either be a 2-2 or a 2-3 to Norwich. But I don't see. I just think that it's difficult to work out, isn't it? I'm going to go with Stoke City 0, Norwich 2. So whoever said 0-2, well done. That's the one I'm going to go with. I think that Norwich will win this. They have the ability to stop Stoke City from scoring, I think, although Stoke City can score and they can score really well. So we'll go with a Norwich win. And we go into our final game, which is Hull City versus Sunderland. Now, Sunday game, and Hull City have turned it on, haven't they? I mean, the last 4 games, 3-1 win away at Stoke, 4-1 win at home to Cardiff City, 3-1 win away at QPR. But they didn't just win it. They didn't win each one of those. They played really well in each one of those. And they didn't just capitulate in their 2-0 defeats at home to Sheffield United 2-0 or away at Leeds 2-0. They managed to play a game that at least attempted to try and get back into the game, albeit without any luck. So we go to the recent 3 wins in a row. Okay, it's Stoke, Cardiff and QPR. However, did they turn up against Norwich? Well, they lost 4-0 away at Norwich, so that was a bit of a downer. Will that affect the game? I think that Norwich are starting to put a good team, a good play together. They've got a good team. We know they've got a good team. We know that team can play in the top 4. We do. But they're not. And at the minute, Norwich is 7th. They've got up there by the fact that they've started to get the results. So I think that that Hull actually did manage to it was a bit of a game of, let's not let them get too many goals, but they unfortunately did. Was away from home. Perhaps we can think about that. I'm going to strike that one off, and I think that they'll quickly bounce back because they are at home. What are you all saying? 1-2 to Sunderland, 1-1, 2-2, 1-2, 0-2, 0-2. You're saying that it's likely to be a draw or a Sunderland win. And I would probably agree with that. Sunderland are doing really well, but then they just keep having these odd times where they just don't seem to click to me. There's just the odd game where they don't seem to really play as well as what you thought they would do. And I think I'm going to have to sit on the fence, and I'm going to have to go Hull City 1, Sunderland 1. So they're my predictions for today. Please do like and subscribe. I'm hopefully doing a listen along tonight and a couple of watch alongs on Saturday. So please do come and join in. Please do like and subscribe. It's Jon S Sports Channel. Over and out.